All right, so, we've all been there, right? Stuck in that endless customer service loop, hitting zero over and over again just to talk to a human being drives you crazy.
Absolutely.
But this paper you sent, leveraging intent detection and generative AI for enhanced customer support, it kind of got me thinking, like, what if instead of us having to jump through hoops, AI could actually, get us, understand what we need
Yeah.
even before we finish typing it out?
That's the key, isn't it? And that's really what this paper digs into, going beyond just automating customer service. It's about understanding the customer's intent, figuring out what they actually want.
Yeah, because let's be honest, sometimes my wifey's down. I don't even know what I want. I'm just frantically typing, hoping for a miracle.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of intent detection comes into play, which I think is really fascinating.
Okay, so break it down for me. How does a computer, even a super smart one, figure out what a frustrated human actually means when they're like on the verge of chucking their router out the window?
Well, it all starts with something called NLP, natural language processing.
NLP.
Yeah, think of it like this. It's the bridge between how we communicate with all our quirks and slang and how computers understand language, which is much more literal.
Okay, so it's like a translator for my tech meltdowns.
In a way, imagine you're trying to reset your Wi-Fi password, but you can't for the life of you remember how. So you message the help chat, something like, and we've all been there, my internet is down, help. NLP takes that desperate message and starts breaking it down.
Into little pieces.
Yeah, exactly. Into smaller parts called tokens. It's analyzing each word, figuring out its role in the sentence, and it goes even further. It'll identify what each word is: verb, noun, adjective. That's called part-of-speech tagging. And all of that, all those little details, help the AI grasp the context, the actual meaning behind your message.
So it's like AI is learning grammar to understand our tech SOS signals.
Sort of. It's
Yeah.
really quite remarkable.
Right.
But it doesn't stop there. It then has to connect those words to specific actions.
Right, because knowing I'm freaking out about my internet is one thing, but actually knowing what to do about it is a whole other level.
And that's where these things called machine learning models come in. They're trained on huge, and I mean massive, data sets of customer interactions.
Okay, so they've basically seen it all.
Pretty much. They've seen every panicked message, every question, every complaint, and from that, they learn to associate specific phrases, keywords, even the way we structure our sentences with certain intents.
So the AI analyzes my message, breaks it down, figures out what I really mean, and then uses these machine learning models to be like, okay, I know what they need. That's pretty slick. But how does it actually go from understanding to actually helping?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting,
Mm.
and that's where generative AI comes in. Generative AI, it's a mouthful, right? But it's really at the heart of how AI can move from understanding to actually doing something helpful.
All right, lay it on me. What is generative AI in a nutshell?
So think about it like this. We've talked about how AI can now analyze your message and figure out what you're trying to do, but then it needs to craft a response.
Yeah.
And not just some canned response, right? It needs to be something that's actually useful, that actually addresses your specific need. And that's where these incredibly powerful language models come in. Things like, you probably heard of it, GPT-4.
GPT-4, yeah, it's kind of everywhere these days. Everyone's talking about it, but what makes it so special?
Well, imagine a system that's been trained on a ridiculously massive amount of text and code. And I mean massive. Like more information than any human could ever process in a lifetime.
Okay, so it's basically a super brain.
Kind of. But here's the really cool part. Because it's been fed all this information, it's learned to do some pretty incredible things. It can generate different kinds of creative content, like stories and poems. It can translate between languages. And it can answer your questions in a way that's, well, almost human-like.
Okay, that part does sound kind of familiar.
Yeah.
But how do you go from, writing poetry to fixing my internet connection? I'm not trying to win a literary prize here. I just want to get back online.
Right, exactly. And you wouldn't have to. That's where fine-tuning comes into play. It's like taking this incredibly smart, multi-talented language model, this GPT-4, and you train it on specific data that's relevant to, you guessed it, customer service.
Ah, okay. So it's like giving this AI super brain a crash course in all things tech support.
Precisely. You train it on things like troubleshooting guides, those product manuals nobody ever reads, even transcripts of previous customer interactions. And by doing that, you essentially create an AI expert that can not only understand your problem, but also generate a solution that's actually tailored to you.
So instead of getting that generic, did you try turning it off and on again
All right.
response, I'm actually getting something that's helpful that takes into account my specific issue.
Exactly. And the beauty of these models is that they're constantly learning and evolving.
Hmm.
So the more you interact with them, the more personalized and sophisticated those interactions become.
So it's almost like having like a personal tech support buddy who knows my entire wifey history.
Pretty much. Although, maybe without the awkward small talk.
Yeah, I think I could live without that. Okay, but let's be real. This all sounds incredibly impressive, but also pretty futuristic. I mean, what are the challenges of actually implementing something like this? It can't be as easy as it sounds.
Oh, absolutely not. There are definitely challenges. And one of the biggest ones, honestly, is data. These AI models, they need a massive amount of high-quality data to be
Hmm.
trained effectively.
Okay, so we're talking like more data than there are cat videos on the internet.
Way more. And it's not just about the quantity, it's also about the quality. The data has to be clean, it has to be well labeled, and it has to be representative of all the different issues that customers might encounter.
So if the AI is trained on like a bunch of poorly written complaints or those really vague troubleshooting guides, it's not going to be very helpful.
Exactly. It's like trying to teach someone to cook from a cookbook that's missing half the ingredients. They might get something edible in the end, but it's not going to be pretty.
Right, it's not going to be winning any awards. So data is crucial. Got it. What else?
Well, another big one is keeping those models up to date.
Hmm.
Because technology, as we all know, changes so quickly. New gadgets are coming out all the time. And, even the way we talk about technology changes. An AI model that was trained on data from a few years ago might not be able to help you with the latest and greatest device, or it might not understand the slang that people are using today.
It's like trying to use a 10-year-old map to navigate a city that's constantly under construction.
Exactly. You might eventually find your way, but you're going to run into a lot of dead ends and detours along the way.
Makes sense. So lots of data, constant updates. Anything else?
Well, there are also some, technical hurdles in terms of actually integrating these AI systems into those existing customer service platforms. It's not just a matter of flipping a switch. These companies have their own systems, their own ways of doing things. It takes some real effort to make sure that these new AI tools actually work seamlessly with what they already have.
Right, like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, technologically speaking.
Exactly. It requires a lot of careful planning and collaboration. But then there's also this whole other side of AI that we haven't even touched on yet, which is,
So much to think about here.
yeah.
But for our listener, the person who's probably dealt with their share of customer service nightmares,
Mhm.
what's the big takeaway here? What should they be most excited about in all of this?
Well, I think the most exciting thing is the potential here to completely change how we experience customer service, to take it from something that we dread, that we avoid at all costs, to something that's actually, well, even enjoyable.
Okay, so almost like flipping the script on customer service.
Exactly. Imagine a world where you don't have to repeat your issue a million times to a million different agents because the AI remembers you, it remembers your past interactions, it knows the products you use.
Wait, hold on. It remembers past conversations. So it's like having like a dedicated support agent who actually like knows my tech history.
Exactly. It knows your preferences, it understands your level of technical expertise, maybe you're a tech whiz, maybe you're not, and it tailors its responses accordingly. No more being talked down to, no more being bombarded with technical jargon.
Okay, that is definitely a win. But beyond just like being more personalized, what about the actual problem solving? Are we talking about AI that can troubleshoot complex technical issues, or are we still going to need to get a human involved at some point?
Well, and this is where it gets really, really interesting. The paper talks about AI systems that are becoming so advanced that they can actually diagnose and even predict problems before they even happen.
Predict problem. Hold on. So like it knows my internet is about to go down before it actually happens.
Well, okay, maybe not magic, but it's using data, right? Imagine sensors in your devices sending data back to the AI, and it's constantly analyzing this information, looking for patterns, for anomalies, and if it detects something unusual, it can alert you, maybe even suggest some preventative measures you can take.
So instead of me freaking out when my wife drops, the AI is already one step ahead, basically saying, "Don't worry, I got this." That is pretty mind-blowing.
It's about being proactive instead of reactive.
I like it. So less panic, more problem solving.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just fixing things, right? It's about the entire experience.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to contact support through whatever channel you're most comfortable with, whether it's text or voice or even video chat. And it's all powered by this seamless AI integration.
So no more navigating those horrible phone menus or waiting on hold for hours on end.
Hopefully not. It's about putting the customer back in control, meeting them where they are.
I love that. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, a lot to be excited about. But if we had to leave our listener with like one final thought, one thing to really chew on, what would it be?
For me, it really comes down to this. AI has the potential to transform customer service from a necessary evil into something that actually adds value to our lives, that strengthens the relationship between companies and their customers. And that's a future I'm really excited to be a part of.
Me too. It's not just about efficiency, it's about connection, it's about trust. And hey, maybe a few less tech meltdowns along the way.
That's the dream.
This has been fantastic. Such a great deep dive into the world of AI customer service. And honestly, I feel like we've only scratched the surface. But for our listener, we hope this has given you a glimpse into what the future holds and maybe sparked some of your own curiosity about what's possible. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and keep diving deeper.